This show is about Tim Ballard and how the church has publicly stated that they have no ties with his organization or Tim Ballard himself, that they have dissolved their relationship with him. And I want to bring that statement up real quick. This is a Christ-centered channel. We talk of Christ. We rejoice in Christ. We preach of Christ. And we are not afraid of the hard subjects, but we engage with love. We welcome those who are watching at this time. We hope that you will comment on this video and hit that like button. Please subscribe to this channel and share this video with your friends and family. May we edify and uplift one another. Now let's get this video started. Because I want to make sure I get it correct. So let's see if I can figure out how to work my computer here again. But when the church makes a statement, you would think that they would, especially in response to or in regards to a person who they think has stepped out of line. Fix my camera here a little bit, such as Tim Ballard. All right. So it seems unusual that they would actually make a public statement and not have a name behind it except for the author himself. And that's confusing to me. Why hasn't, if it's important enough for the church to make a statement about an individual publicly, if it's that important, then why didn't they, at least as a leadership, say we sign off on this release to Vice? It's confusing, and I'm trying to figure out when is the leadership in the church going to actually, even the bishop of the church, somebody come out and say, this is the reason that we did this, or make a follow-up statement, not concerning Tim Ballard or where he's at in his moral fiber, but why would you come out publicly to show a complete a division, or just say we are not a part of his organization, we have no affiliation with his organization, we have no ties, we don't support it, we don't do anything with it? It's like, why make that statement as a church, but yet not tell us why you're making the statement in a way that connects to the audience? We want to know. We don't want to know from a source that doesn't have an apostle or prophet named. We want that as a people of the church. And I think we deserve it. We are good, faithful members of the church, many of us. I would say about 5 million of us. Good, faithful, tithe-paying members. Money's nothing. Money has no bearing on my membership or anything like that, or if I'm in good standing because I pay tithing or not. What we trust the leadership of our church to be able to talk to us as human beings, as that we exist, that we have a connection to this story because it's important to us. If it's that important for you to, let me read the statement. I have not. Again, it's what it reads. It says the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has issued a strong rebuke of the former, and this is from KUTV, right? Has issued a strong rebuke of the former leader of Operation Underground Railroad. Tim Ballard has made national headlines. All right, now let me make sure. This is where let's get to the part of the that I want to really read. Vice News published an article on Friday reporting Tim Ballard regularly met with acting president of the Quorum of the 12, Elder M. Russell Ballard. Vice reported that Ballard claimed Elder Ballard, who are not related, kept in close contact about rescue mission, and that Elder Ballard was a partner in a for-profit venture called Slave Stealers, which would have controlled our OUR and other nonprofits to monetize the attention raised by OUR rescue missions. Vice reported that Ballard's main goal was to use sizzle from these rescue missions to draw people to the Latter-day Saint faith. The article reads, Tim Ballard, who claimed, according to the documents, that Elder Ballard maintained a close contact with him at least one disastrous overseas mission, which was based on information obtained by psychic media and aimed at rescuing a missing child. Ballard said the Mormon elder blessed him and his wife, Catherine, beforehand, and received real-time updates from on the ground. Church official, Utah governor, not considered, okay, whatever. Church officials are refuting claims of any kind of partnership between the two Ballards. They said the two men formed a friendship based on a shared interest of protecting children. But Elder Ballard cut ties when that friendship was betrayed. A spokesman for the church issued the following statement to Vice and KUTV. President Ballard and Tim Ballard, no relation. Okay, they're not related. Established a friendship a number of years ago. That friendship was built on a shared interest in looking after God's children whenever they are and without regard to their circumstances. However, that relationship is in the past. For many months, President Ballard has had no contact with the founder of Operation Underground Railroad, OUR. The nature of that relationship was always in support of vulnerable children being abused, trafficked, and otherwise neglected. Once it became clear that Tim Ballard had betrayed their friendship through the unauthorized use of President Ballard's name for Tim Ballard's personal advantage and activity regarded as morally unacceptable, President Ballard withdrew his association. President Ballard never authorized his name or the name of the church to be used for Tim's personal or financial interest. In addition, the Church of Jesus Christ never endorsed, supported, or represented OUR, Tim Ballard, or any projects associated with them. President Ballard loves children all over the world. It has been his mission and his life work to look after them, care for them, and point them to the Savior. The church did publish an article in 2015 describing Tim Ballard's efforts. In it, Ballard explained that his reasoning for founding OUR was his faith in Jesus Christ. Ballard was quoted as saying, "There's no question in my mind that this is the Lord's work, and that we are his hands. This is so important because it's so important to the Lord." There is heavy speculation that Ballard is considering running for Senate. Okay. All right. So anyway, let's stop sharing here. Someday I'm going to learn how to use Zoom better. So again, if I'm reading this correctly, it actually talks about not the church, denouncing their relationship with Tim Ballard. It's that Russell M. Ballard had made a statement that if he's using my name, then he's out of line. And maybe Tim has used his name. I watched many interviews based on The Sound of Freedom and when it came out. And he never promotes this idea where there's a tie between the church and a tie between his operation. He just says, "I'm a man of faith." But the church name never really comes up in a way that promotes a tie between the two, between his operation and what the church is about. So I'm trying to figure out of all these interviews, he doesn't use the name of the church at all, and he doesn't use President Ballard as a mantle of authority, saying that he's on board with me too. He talks about how he and his friends go out and rescue children and the importance of that and the cruelty that is out there because of that. So I'm trying to figure out why people are so not casually. I watch my buddy, the guys that really bring it to life, and that's Cardinal is Quakuel. I'm going to mess it up, but and the other friend, who are I'm such a ditz. And Jacob Hansen has talked about it, but I didn't watch all of his video, but it was really good. But he was with the other guys, and but it seems like the emphasis there is just to try to set a happy medium between, well, the church has their position, and then Tim Ballard, he does what he does. But well, what if Tim Ballard is really corrupt, really doing these things? And what about these women that are, and the guy from Seawick, he's another, I can't remember names. Please forgive me for not remember names, but you if you type in Tim Ballard on the on YouTube, you'll find all these commentaries. And I was watching one yesterday. I shut it down because it was just the guy was going into details that I didn't want to hear about. I listened to the whole interview of Catherine Ballard. What a courageous woman! Just totally courageous. I want to tell you that Tim Ballard's a hero. Let's say that he messed up big time with multiple women because of the circumstances of the operation. Now, most of you Latter-day Saints live in this homogenized world. It's sterilized, and you don't really know the filth out there. Really don't. You've locked yourself in your homes and basically have blanketed your whole life with coverings that keep you from being exposed to the filth that's in the world. And you think that everything that that involves the heroes in life that we have, the policemen, heroes like Tim Ballard, and heroes like firemen and doctors and nurses and everybody like that, that there's not a price that they have to pay morally in order to do their job. There's a General Oakes who flew sorties over Vietnam, dropping bombs. And there's other members of the church that had to go to war. Hugh Nibley was in Normandy. My great uncle was in Normandy, same time. And my great uncle, when he was finished, he was a straight edge before he went over to war. When he got it back, he couldn't put stopper back in the bottle. Tore him up that much. Hugh Nibley, different thing. He didn't wield himself to that pressure that comes. Let's look it up. Since I can't. And Brad Whitbeck, that's the other one. That's the other Midnight Mormon. While I'm thinking about it. Yeah, post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay. PTSD. See, I don't even remember it because I don't have it. I didn't go to war. I was in the military for 9 years. I did ship out on aircraft men and equipment to fight wars, but I didn't have to go to war. But those heroes, let's take a scenario. Let's remember that a cop, he carries a handgun with him. All right. And even though and I've got a lot of Latter-day Saint friends that are law enforcement where I live. And they carry that gun not to be used unless necessary. And the necessity arises once in a while, and they have to use it. And they have to end somebody's life because circumstances forced them into that. These are good Latter-day Saint men and women, men of war that were Latter-day Saints, missionaries being called away from their missions during World War II and going to Vietnam and different places where war was running rampant. And these good men, Latter-day Saint men, had to take people's lives because it was a war. And they had no choice because they were duty bound by the church's principles in the Articles of Faith that we are subject to kings, magistrates, presidents. And we abide by those rules and those laws. And we fight for those freedoms that are joint with those countries. So if these men are going out, let's take bombing real easy there. How many children did Elder Oaks, when he's flying, how many children did he kill during those operations? Innocent children, innocent people, because he had to bomb an area where the enemy had fortified itself, and it could cause great harm to our cause. How many children did he kill? How many children in buildings that are bombed or blown up by explosives experts? How many children? It's unfortunate that children die in these. These are innocent people. They have to die in war. The blood stains the hands of those who fire upon these people, who bomb these people. Do you think a Latter-day Saint in good standing feels justified at any time? That he's duty bound to operate in such a manner? They're taking somebody's life. Thou shalt not kill. It's in the Bible. All right? Some people in this world were given that position, that circumstances. And because they were given those circumstances to live through, it is upon them to do the best they can with what they have. A gynecologist, a male gynecologist, look what he has to do. Women, are you offended by the fact that male gynecologists exist at all? They have to invade your personal space? No, it's their medical profession. You trust them to do the job that they have been educated to do, so that you know that you're getting the best medical help that you can get, that can be provided. Women, are you offended by that? Now, how's this? How about Tim Ballard? Let's go Bible. Great man in the Bible. Actually, he's a kid, he's a teenager. And he defeats Goliath as a teenager. They crown him king before Saul is even dead, basically. And Saul is all mad about it. Right? But eventually, David falls into sin. Does that circumstance of David where he falls, does that take away from the heroic event that took place when he was a kid? Of course not. You remember this. Jesus Christ didn't talk about his sin in the New Testament. He quoted him because he was still respected and revered by the Jewish people. And if he's willing to quote David, I would say that David still holds a place in God's heart and probably a place in his kingdom. Just because we fail for just a moment does not cause God to cut his ties with his children. He just finds a way to overcome sin. And how did he do it? How did he overcome the fallen man's? He did it through a Savior, his only begotten Son. If Tim Ballard has fallen, if he has fallen, I got a question. Is God's grace sufficient enough to even save him? Where does the atonement stop? When does a man sin so much that he is no longer redeemable? I've talked about my experience many a times, and I'll save that for a little bit later. But you remember Paul, who was Saul before he became Paul? He was a bad guy, holding the cloaks of those who stoned Stephen. Might as well been the murderer himself, standing in line. But yet God was able to redeem him. What about the Lamanites, who seen the hero Ammon as he protected the flock and the servants of the king? And Ammon coming to the king, he tells him about the coming of a Messiah and how he can be redeemed. He fall in the Lamanites, a vicious, a foul, vile people. I'm talking about, if murder was the only thing they did, it's bad. But murder wasn't the only thing they were doing. I can guarantee you that. This was a vile, very corrupt people. And rape and incest and the most hideous sexual crimes and orgies and everything else were going on with these people. But God loved them enough that he sent Ammon to share the gospel with them, and they were redeemed. They were redeemed. Tim Ballard can't be redeemed. I don't know what Tim Ballard has had to do in his operations, but whatever it took to save the lives of children means a lot to me. And I'm talking a lot. See, I was a victim. There's people around me that I love very much that were victims of these crimes. So to me, Tim Ballard's a hero no matter what. If he's a fallen man, so be it. If Tim Ballard's a fallen man, so be it. But he's done good. He's protected at least children from the predators that are now incarcerated. He hasn't got them all. He'll never get them all because they'll just keep coming from the shadows of the corrupt and the vile people that still exist in this world. Satan is never going away. He's always going to be here until the king comes and he puts him in chains. Until then, this world is going to be nothing but filthy. I was thinking about it today, and there's several things I wanted to talk about. But I didn't want to take too long, because people, they get bored with videos and stuff like that. But I want to make sure I share this. Those who seem to think that they're righteous or purified, or they feel clean. And maybe it's because they feel clean because they have been redeemed by God. But yet they stand outside and they look afar off, and they see the mud. And they see the people who wallow in that mud and filth, in that vile. Let me remind you, those who think that you're not a part of that filth and vile, we cannot exalt ourselves above the earth. We still stand planted firmly upon the ground, the same ground that has that mud that those people are wallowing in. We stand on the same ground as they do. We are not higher than them. We are part of the same filth. Yes, we have distanced ourselves from the filth, but there's not one of us that can say, I am clean, without knowing that Jesus Christ has done the work in the Garden of Gethsemane, and then finally on the cross to redeem us. So just because you're not in the mud doesn't mean that you're not in the filth. And so many times people dismiss this or separate their minds from the pre-existence. I love this movie. It's called Love Kennedy. If you get a chance, for those who watch this video, if you get a chance, watch that movie, Love Kennedy. It's absolutely just wonderful. I cried. You start the movie, I'm starting to cry because I know what's going to happen. But Kennedy is such a just incredible child of God. And she plays a role in so many people's lives. We're all connected. We all have a role to play. We have all chosen. If we are of God, we've all chosen our path and what we would do while we were here on this earth. It's our challenge to get through these things. Tim Ballard is a good man. He follows God. And he's been given a challenge in his life by God. See, God knows that evil will exist on this earth. And he's using his choice saints to fight against it. And Tim Ballard again, even if he's a fallen man, he's still a choice saint because he's out there battling the most filthiest and vilest humans that walk this earth. I want to remind you of something. I think it was Kwaku. He said something that's very powerful, and I think it works. It says, God and his son Jesus Christ had a challenge presented to them. And I'm paraphrasing what he said, but I'm going to put it in my words, all right? So God and Jesus Christ had a challenge before them. Because here you have Satan or Lucifer who's saying, nobody will be lost because I will not allow it. And Jesus Christ says, it's thy will, Father. Thy will, thy plan is, what I'll follow. And God's plan was free agency. And he says in that plan that my plan and the power of God, or the power that I exhibit, will show that I can redeem man from his fallen state, no matter what, because my plan includes the sacrifice of my only begotten Son. And that great love that is shown through that plan will overcome even the most vile things that man can do. Now, the only thing that does not allow the plan to work is if we deny the power that it has. That's the only way, is if we deny it. But that plan, that power that God has to redeem his children is even for the most vile people that ever existed on this earth. It'll be up to them whether they want that power to redeem them or not. So, Tim Ballard, like I said, I don't know. You think about Tim Ballard's job, right? He's got to go into strip clubs. He's got to go into the most filthiest places. I only went to one strip club. My biggest thing was porn. All right, I watched a lot of porn. Went to a strip club once. I don't remember doing it twice, but I remember once. Oh, okay, long time ago. But I wasn't in the church. I wasn't real bad, but I wasn't the best of human beings, and I'd lost, connection with God, and really didn't see God as part of my plans going forward at all. And I was in porn, and then I got married, and we still watch porn and all that. And I was a horrible guy to my wife, who's my ex-wife now. She wasn't the best either, but I was pretty pitiful. All right, the worst of kind. Didn't drink, smoke, do drugs, or anything like that. Porn and violence within the family was pretty regular in our home. So, pretty pitiful person that I was. All right. In my childhood, I'd seen many things, done many things, and they were vile. All right. Because that's the world I lived in. We lived in a impoverished life. We really didn't have any spiritual guidance at all. Dad was an alcoholic. Mom really didn't have any wherewithal. She was a victim of violence within home. So much so that my great grandmother lived with us, and whenever my dad would get drunk, we'd escape in the car and drive away for a while until he went to sleep, and then left my mom at home, and it was time for her to contend with that. All right. I still think about my dad and how much I love him and how great of a human being he was. Yes, he had some problems in his life, but I know he's redeemed. Absolutely know he's redeemed. See, there's good men in the world, and sometimes the circumstances in their life creates creates um, a pattern that they can't shake for a long time sometimes. But anyway, so I mean, look, I mean, I lived in chaos, and I have biker gang next door to me, and there's thugs all over the place, and my cousins they were pretty loose about things and all that. So it was pretty filthy where I lived. All right, things happened to me when I was that age, shouldn't have happened. All right. So here's Tim Ballard, who's a hero to me, because being a victim, you look for people like that to finally rid the world of that kind of filth. And again, I have many close people around me that have been victims too. And knowing that they're going to be that much safer because of what Tim does means a lot to me. If Tim's made mistakes in his life, whatever that looks like, I mean, we've all fallen short of the glory of God, and we all need to be redeemed. But allow the process to happen. Allow the bishop to say, "Hey, Tim, hey, where you at? How you feeling? What can I do to help you? These things are being reported, and I need to let you know that I love you. I care about you. The members of the Quorum of the 12 love you. The president loves you. And we're here for you. And if we have to exercise a separation for a while because of the work you do, then allow that process to happen. And I'm sure Tim Ballard would be more than willing to allow that process to happen, whatever that looked like. It's too good a man. One day, we had some trouble in my house. I was threatened by my ex and child that they were going to call the bishop and get me excommunicated. I said, okay. So I get excommunicated. Does that take away my relationship between me and my Father in heaven and Jesus Christ? Absolutely not. The church is a vessel which I am able to renew my covenants through each week. And if I was excommunicated, I would make sure that whatever I had done to deserve that, I would be willing to work through that and make sure that I would come back in good standing with the church. See, like I said, church has nothing to do with my relationship with God and Jesus Christ. That relationship is personal. Again, it's the church has the authority of God to bind me and my Father in heaven, Jesus Christ, through the ordinances that we perform. And then each week I renew that covenant through the sacrament. All right? That's what it's there for. But I would never think to myself that my Father and heaven did not love me because I was excommunicated from the church. I would always know that he loved me. And then in time, that I would be able to work through whatever problems I was having and reconnect with him in that in by design, by his design, not my own. And I'm sure Tim Ballard, if he needed to be need to be removed from the church in any way, that he would be willing to do that so that his work could go forward, because he cares enough about those children that he knows that his personal relationship with God is there with or without the church. He knows it. Now, I'm sure if he were to watch this video, he'd agree with my philosophy in that way. The church put out a statement because everybody's trying to tear down the church in any way. They'll use surrogates. Like Tim Ballard, a great man, they would use him and connect him to the filth that he's involved in, and then say the church is condoning these acts, but yet they won't allow a practicing homosexual to be a member of the church. Well, how can they have two different standards? Oh. They conspire against us, and they do anything they can. I mean, first, if you anytime the Latter-day Saint, or I call them Mormons when they step too far out of line, but when a member of the church steps out of line, it becomes public news. The first thing they put up there is what church he's a member of. They would never say, oh, this guy's an atheist who murdered so many people, or if it's a Christian, or especially if it's a Latter-day Saint, they'll make sure that they put those comments within their news articles to demonize anything that is good in the world, to attach the evil of an individual to the associations, public associations they have. I mean, you think about the cops. Something went wrong with George Floyd, I get it. But then the public perception is, for a while, and it still is for for too many people, and not the majority, but too many people, that the cops are evil, they're bad, that they are hunting for anyone that is not white to harm and to put down. And that's because they associate the act of one person or three people within a department, and they associate that with everyone that is in law enforcement. And that's the same thing that they do with the church. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know if people want to watch what I have to say throughout this whole thing. I hope you do. I hope you share it. I hope you hit the like button, comment on it, tell me where I'm right or wrong. But I want to share this last story with you, as I promised I would. See, I know that my dad, my dad was not a religious man at all. He talked down about religion and the church and everything out all through his life. There was a couple of times I was able in his later life to read the scriptures to him, but you know, but he really wasn't too close to it. But he'd stopped drinking for 13, 14 years, and then he started back up at for the last 5 years of his life. And he died in 2006. I love my dad, and even though that he had some problems in his life and due to some circumstances that happened in his life, I loved him. He was a great man. He wasn't well educated. He's dyslexic and didn't really get out fifth grade or whatever grade he was. I think sixth grade. I think he dropped out after that mostly, but still he was able to do some really amazing things. But remember, he was of the world, and when I was growing up, and even later on, no matter what, he's telling me that in order to be a man, I had to drink, smoke, chase women. You're not a man if you don't do those things. He talked about his bar fights and stuff like that, and promoted as this is what it was to be a man. Right? That's the way he talked most of the time to me when we were, you know, at any given time. When I was married, he wouldn't talk about chasing women or anything like that so much, but he was in a better place. But still, that's what I grew up with. And that's what surrounded me in my teenage years, from the time I was born almost, for a long time. My great uncle and my cousins, it's the way they treated it. So that's the kind of influence that I had. But anyway, get back to my dad. So my dad died in 2006, and I got back into the church for a number of years by then. A good saintly man finally. But even though that I knew how the atonement worked and that it did exist, I didn't feel worthy of taking the sacrament or being in the temple. I would go and I'd take a sacrament, but it always ate inside of me because I lived a vile life and did things that I'm not even going to mention here. They're so vile. I never cheated on my wife, but with pornography, might as well be cheating on my wife. All right. But finally, I got rid of all that stuff. And then I, finally found my master again. Right. Anyway, but still, it ate at me all the time. And my dad had been dead for, I think, 14 years. And I was waiting for one of the older children that knew him, one of the older boys that knew him better, to be able to step into the waters of baptism for him, and so I could do the ordinance for him. But that never came about. And so, like I said, 14 years has passed since he's died. And I've got my youngest child who's didn't know him at all. He was 1 year old when he passed away. So my dad didn't know him that well, and my son didn't know him that well. But, this is the love of God. It worked both ways. Worked for me and my dad. So I'm a dreamer. One kid asked me, "Are you a prophet?" Because I told him all the crazy stories I have. I said, "No, I just have a gift." Right? But I had so many wonderful things happen that most people call miracles or whatever out there, but they just happen, and I accept them for what they are. But here I am, and I'm dreaming one night, and I haven't done my dad's work yet, all right? But I'm dreaming one night, and usually when I dream about my ancestors or my dad or whoever, it's really a vague um, interaction I'm having with them. There's a lot of other things going on, but they're just in the story. They become part of the story, but I'm not really. It's really, like I said, it's really disconnected in a lot of ways. So, but that's always been my dreams in a lot of ways. But this night it was different. So I was dreaming that I was driving a bus, and on that bus was my soccer team. And as we go up an off ramp, end up on the downside of the off ramp because meaning that on the grass and stuff like that go off to the side, and because the steering wheel came off. So I'm down there working on the steering wheel, and I hear this voice. It's my dad's voice, and he said, "What you doing?" And I said, and it's like a full on conversation. I'm like, oh, I'm not shocked by it or anything like that in the dream. It's just a very natural. And there's some things. Whenever my dad would call me on the phone, there was things that he would say that would cue me in on what was going on in his mind. And this was no different. All right. So he said, so in this dream, I hear his voice. It's really clear. It's understandable and it's not vague. It's really right there. And he says, "What you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm just working on the steering wheel on this bus." And he said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Dad, did you need something?" He said, "Yeah, I could use your help." I said, "I could be over there right now." He said, "No, whenever you get time." And so finally on Sunday morning, I woke up from that dream and I told my wife and my child, I said, just had this dream. I explained to him what was going on in the dream. I said, I'm pretty sure, I'm 95% sure that was my dad asking for me for help so I could do his work. But again, it's only a dream, and I don't, and I'm pretty sure that's what was going on. But I wouldn't stake my life on it. All right, but always within my dreams, within my revelations that I receive, there's always another event that attaches itself to the first one that makes it very clear what's going on. And so again, that was on Sunday, and on Wednesday morning at 4:55 a.m., 20 minutes before my alarm clock goes off, this voice wakes me up. Now I'm not dreaming. This voice wakes me up and it says, "Read Isaiah 56," and it's very loud in my mind and very clear. But I'm waking up from this like shock. It says, read Isaiah 56. And I'm waking up and I'm like, Isaiah 58, no, 56. So I read Isaiah 56, and I'm going to bring it up here, might as well, since I've got it somewhere close, maybe. La, 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 la. I don't like Windows 11 that much. It doesn't serve my purpose all that well, but it's a good app. I mean, it's a good operating system, but it's not my. I should have had this up earlier, but we got to wait for it to. Does anybody know? While this is anybody out there know what Isaiah 56 says without looking it up? Well, I'll tell you right now, I didn't know what it said when I received that loud voice in my head that said, "Read it." And I'm not going to read all of it, but I'm going to get to the highlight where becomes meaningful. So the first one is keep the Sabbath day holy. It goes through that, and then on down, it says, let's go from verse 4, and we'll just read through. Let me put it on the screen here, since we can do that. So it says, for thus saith the Lord unto the church eunuchs that keep my Sabbaths, and choose the things that please me, and take hold of my covenant. Even unto them will I give in mine house, and within my walls a place and a name better than of sons and daughters, and of daughters. I will give them an everlasting name that shall not be cut off. Also, the sons of the strangers that join themselves to the Lord to serve him and to love the name of the Lord, to be his servants, everyone that keepeth the Sabbath from polluting it, and taketh hold of my covenants, even them will I bring to my holy mountain, and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices shall be accepted upon my altar, for mine house shall be called an house of prayer for all the people. Right. So these people are welcomed into the house of the Lord, mountain of prayer, and to do the sacrifice, and their sacrifices are accepted. So when I read that, it said, go to the temple. So I went that day. That was on Wednesday. And then when I talked to my wife and child, and I was like, hey, this is what happened. And they said, yeah. So I'll tell you right now, there's not any way that this could be a patterned outcome, because if in the next event after the dream with my dad, in the next event that happened on Wednesday, if the thought came into my head, or if I heard some kind of noise that would said, hey, go to the temple and do your dad's work, I would tend to decide that I'm just processing it in an interpretation so that it would make an event take place that I thought was connected to the first one, But because he gives me this, because his voice tells me to read this chapter, he knows how I'm going to interpret it. He knows I will interpret it that I need to go to the temple. So I went that day. And so then I talked to my wife and child. I was like, hey, and they're like, we got soccer, 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 soccer. All right. And I'm the coach at the time, and my boy's on the team. And so, I said, yeah, well, my dad did say whenever we get time. So I wasn't pressured because of that. Crazy. Soccer team on the bus. My dad says, whenever you get time. And now I'm not pressured to try to force this event, But in time, I went and did his work, and now he's been endowed. Well, and I trust that the Lord, if he can redeem my dad, who was very cavalier and very much a part of the world and the vials of it, if he would redeem him, then I would say that Tim Ballard is a no-brainer that he'll be redeemed if he fallen short in any way. And this is very important to me. Not only was my dad redeemed because of that, but because I was asked to go to the temple, the house of prayer, the mountain of the Lord. I knew at that time that I didn't have to worry about my past. That nothing in my past made God hate me at all. That he loved me for who I was at the time that I was having this experience, and he would always love me. If what I did in my past does not exclude me from his presence, because I have been redeemed, then nothing I can do in my future could ever, and believe me, I would never outwardly sin just because I got the name on my back or whatever. How sad of an idea is that? I could do whatever I want. I can eat, drink, be merry, and tomorrow we die, and only a few stripes upon us, and all that. No, I don't take that attitude. I love my Father too much to live any other kind of life. I cannot be happy unless my Father in heaven is happy. And though my righteousness is as filthy as rags, it does not give me encouragement that I can do nothing to please my Father in heaven. Because I know that there's people out there that need to be lifted up in life, need to have a friend. Somebody's had some experiences that can relate to their experiences. How many people I've helped? Too many count. I do it because somebody's helped me. So whether the brethren were right or wrong or whatever that looks like, or Tim Ballard's out of line, whatever, it all gets worked out in the end. Remember this, and now is nothingness, but it's everything. The moment is everything, and eternity is the impossible. So whatever failures we have now, I mean, this whole thing blows up. Think about this. The earth is going to burn for 1,000 years. It's going to eventually receive its paradoxical glory. We're dealing with the now, which looks pretty filthy, all right? It all blows away and like that. There's nothing that we have today that will ever be better than what the eternity, well, don't call it the eternity, what the next stage of our life will look like. It won't look too good if we don't find a relationship with those that care about us the most here. Because why would people want to socialize there if they're not socializing here? It's like this, I'm going to leave it on this one. There's so many people who say, hey, I want to be with God after I die. Less and less now, but it's a popular thing to say. But they do nothing at all to build that relationship while they're here. They leave it to the side until death. Now, don't get me wrong. Are they redeemable? Of course. Are they redeemable? Of course they are. No one is left behind. God's great power overcomes every weakness that man can be, that man has. There's nothing at that power. He says, Satan, you think that you have power. Watch, wait, and learn of the great power of love and how it will bring forth the mightiest army that you've ever seen from these people that are here on this earth. They will be unstoppable. Nothing will stop them because I have the power to give them power to overcome even the world. And it'll be through my son's Jesus Christ. who's the Redeemer, the Savior of my children, who I dearly love so much that I'm willing to give up my only begotten Son. For those who believe in him, may they have everlasting life. Last one, I keep on saying last. I love talking. What a wonderful plan it is that God has. And I love this. Whether you accept the book of Moses or not, or book of Abraham or not, I love what it says. It says, this is my work and my glory, to bring to pass the immortality and eternal life of man. And then I believe in the book of Abraham, it says, herewith prove them, that they may be proven. See, God knows how this all plays out. But there's no event until an act is accomplished in life, meaning that God could foresee the future events of everything that goes on, right? If I could see, I've seen things that in my dreams that happened 3 months from the time the dream happened. I mean, word for word, all right? But if this mind of just a pure mortal wretched of a man can see 3 months ahead, I imagine that God could see all things eternally, all right? So he knows exactly who and who will not, and who will be a disaster and who will not. Who will be the most vile and who will not. And he had it easily just said, well, we know who's going to heaven, who's going to hell, kind of thing. So we'll just skip the earthly experience and just go to the next moment. So we just don't have to deal with it. Right? But that's not what happened. He can't judge people based on an idea or an event that has not taken place yet. He has to judge people based on the actual event that took place and why the person engaged as they did. And yes, it's God's love that overshadows all these things. He's not trying to find out who he can kick out. He's looking for those who want to be with him. I wish and hope that people, again, like, share, leave a comment, subscribe to this channel. I know it's been long-winded. I hope you got something out of it, those who stayed this long. But it was important for me to put it out. And if I touch one person's life with this video, that's enough for me. But help an old man out. Share this video for me. And this is the Latter-day Saint on Fire, and I'm out of here.